this movie proves to me that white privilege is very real.
I'm so excited to
Because if
hear.
anybody looked as weird as Nicolas Cage does,
Oh
and he was
yeah.
not white, you would
Oh,
immediately
dead,
send their ass
dead,
to jail.
dead immediately.
So, so what we can talk about, friend?
Short arms,
Short
short
arms,
T-Rex adventure.
no neck.
It's interesting. Maybe this is just me getting old, but when we were in our local movie stomping grounds,
Hmm.
there's some sort of event coming up. It's like Dino Theme.
Dinos, Dive Vincent drives.
Yes, and it even has like a sign that says you might even meet a dinosaur.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, this is clearly aimed towards like small children,
Children. Uh-huh.
but I'm
Please don't.
interested.
God damn it, Bob.
I love a dinosaur.
That's
Some
amazing.
would say they are cool.
Some would say dinosaurs are very
Some
cool.
would say they are cool.
Some would. I'm not wearing the red shirt for that
No,
though.
but I don't know who would say that they are cool. But well, you know what's not cool? Freaks.
Freaks.
Freaks are not
Yeah,
cool.
so we're here talking about Longlegs,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny that you also mentioned that like this movie opens with a quote by T-Rex, and
Oh
T-Rex have
yeah.
famously short arms.
They do.
They do.
They do.
So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
There's something there. This movie though is weirdly hilarious in some scenes,
This
and like
movie's
I think
hilarious and
it's definitely purposeful.
this movie's hilarious in a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To talk about Longlegs, a movie that's been out for a hot minute.
Yeah.
I want to say it came out mid-June.
Did it just get knocked out of the top five or something?
Uh, it might have just gotten out on the top five
Yeah.
recently. But it's hanging on strong. It's gotten non-horror people to go see it,
Very good.
which is interesting because like Isabel saw it.
She's
She's
not
not
a
a horror
horror, but
fan.
yeah.
Matt saw it. He's
Oh
not a horror
yeah.
fan.
What did Matt think?
He thought it was good. He didn't love the last bit of it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Same with Isabel, had similar thoughts.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly disagree with
You
that take, but I have my
you loved
reasons for
you
it.
loved the last bit.
I fucking love this movie.
Good.
I think for me, and I know it's June, or
Hmm.
it's not June. Jesus Christ, I wish it was June.
Me too.
It's August,
Me too.
and there's still 4 solid months until the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time thinking of any movie coming out that would
That you think is gonna eclipse.
this, at least for me.
So this is your top.
For me so far, yeah.
Wow. So
There's a lot of moving parts that I like. Um,
I so what I my little pithy letterboxd review that I'm about to say to you is gonna sound very mean. It's not supposed to be mean. I do
sure.
like this movie. I would say that this is if you took an edgelord movie, this is as good as an edgelord movie could possibly be.
That's fair.
I don't love it. I really like it.
Okay.
I don't love it,
That's fine.
but I think that where this movie hits on all cylinders is, as we were talking about before, atmosphere.
Oh, 1,000%.
It's one of those like when you're teaching literary devices to the youth, you typically need like little snippets of film for them to get like this is foreshadowing, this is this is symbolism, this is onomatopoeia, uh, and I show this movie. I'm like, this is mood.
This is, yeah,
This whole movie is fucking mood, and that's what it's got going for it, and it hits and it delivers on
it
the mood.
hits, it delivers. Um, I think for me, the thing that really works on this is that like, so like I've seen this. This is my third time watching it,
Nice.
and every time you watch it, you do pick up on like the breadcrumbs that are being like laid out.
This is what a good friend Javi is, by the way, everybody. The last two movies we've seen together are this and Deadpool. You saw Deadpool
That was my
five
fourth.
times.
That was
That was
my
your
fourth
fourth time,
time.
and this is your third time. So look at this wonderful friend seeing this shit multiple times. So Thano can be cultured.
That, and it's also like the fact that like I just wanted to fucking watch it
I
again.
feel like this movie would get better upon subsequent
And
rewatches.
that's kind of the thing. So like there's a lot of like that. So the movie opens up with a quote from the band T-Rex, and I wrote
Hmm.
it down here. Well, you're slim and you're weak. You've got the teeth of the Hydra upon you. You're dirty, sweet, and you're my girl. Like it sets you up
Yeah,
for like everything that's coming up.
yeah,
It's also weird as hell to like start this movie with like the way it begins and then it just cuts into like a fucking rock song for the credits.
yeah. So I don't know the band T-Rex. What kind of music was it?
I believe, I mean they're rock.
Yeah.
Um they they do have like there are people who are like, "Oh, this is a satanic band," but like, I mean, that's
Uh,
just any rock band really in like the
Back then
'70s.
was a Tanner band.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think they have a song in like Rock Band and stuff like that that I would
it
recognize pretty
sounds
certainly.
familiar.
But like all of these like clues are it, like if you on a rewatch, I think it's what really cement. Like I really liked this the first time I watched it,
Hmm.
but I think it was like the second time I watched it that I was like, oh, this movie actually does make sense. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's not like bending over backwards to like make itself work.
No,
It's all there. It's just the information that you're being fed. It's you're being fed it very slow, which is
yeah,
kind of like
like titration to uh please our fellow chemistry teachers.
sure.
Yes,
But anyway, so this is a serial killer movie. It's very much in the vein of your Silence of the Lambs.
I was gonna say, shall we read the synopsis and
Yes.
then probably spoiler warning from here on out, Millionaire
Yeah.
fans. Um, in pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end his terrifying killing spree. I would say that if you took like the word occult out of there,
Not
I haven't
even.
seen I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs in a while, but if you took out occult, I would say that that's
I think
pretty much Silence of the Lambs.
even if you keep the word occult,
Yeah,
this is the Silence of the Lambs
yeah.
like blurb, and I think that's the problem that I feel like kind of then hurts it a little bit
Mm,
because people are expecting Silence of the Lambs. People are expecting like a realistic quote unquote like take on this.
yeah.
And one of the biggest detractions that I've heard, and like we said, like no spoiler warning because this movie's been out for long enough.
Right.
Um, I
But even if it
think,
weren't,
huh?
but even if it weren't out for long enough, no spoiler warning.
Sure. I mean, it's long form podcast,
Correct.
whatever, right?
Correct.
And I think this, like, one of the things that I've seen a lot of people complain about is like, why does it have to be supernatural? It doesn't make sense. It's trying to explain itself. Like, but I think the fact that it does end up being supernatural at the end.
Yeah,
I think that's why I like it.
that it does end up being
That it
supernatural.
does
Yeah,
end
yeah,
up
yeah.
being supernatural.
I I think another premise you could take from this movie where I kind of have to give it props because like, the Satanic Panic was a thing.
Absolutely.
And most Satanic Panic killer movies are like, it's the evil that resides in man. And this one's like, what if Satanic Panic, but real?
Yeah. And you know what the funniest thing is right now we are living through like the next like the next big wave of satanic panic,
Yeah,
right? Like if you had your big one in the 80s,
rumor, doomer.
I think 2024, like the 2020s is definitely the age of like the second wave
Yeah.
of that. And you have people legitimately shitting on Deadpool say this movie satanic because it, uses like Marvel Jesus and the
Mm,
Messiah as like
mm,
a running joke, the crucifix for Logan.
right.
And I'm like, fucking watch Longlegs and you'll
Yeah.
actually watch a legit satanic ass fucking movie.
Well, and that's the thing. It is so like what if Satanic Panic but real?
Yeah?
Where I could even see like queer and feminist criticism being like, look at this, androgynous looking villain, look at all the tropes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, like it leans into the stereotypes, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in an effective way.
And I think it also does a good job at like this. You're watching this, and I feel like this is something like I felt the first time I watched it.
Hmm.
It feels like you're watching something awful.
Yeah,
Not quality wise,
right.
but like you're watching
A
something.
terrible thing is transpiring.
Yes, like you're watching an evil movie.
While it's not that gory, well, it's not even on like the level of Seven, I would say, in terms of like
No,
set piece, right? But it still gets you with that
it
atmosphere.
is shockingly violent in the few instances where violence happens.
Yeah.
Um, it's used sparingly so that when it does happen, it
Yeah.
hits very, very well.
Yeah. But
Because I can probably count in my hand how many actual like scenes of violence there are in this movie.
yeah.
Um, but I think also like the setup for this movie was handled very well.
Hmm.
I think in the last maybe like 2, 3 years, maybe Neon has become like one of my favorite movie
Studios.
studios as far
Yeah.
as like how they handle their not just their movies. The movies are good, but also like their marketing.
Yeah.
Because Immaculate had a very successful marketing
Yep.
with a leading into the Sydney Sweeney thing,
Yeah.
and then when like the weirdo started like getting on Sydney's case about like, oh, this movie is evil. She
Right.
was like, you're goddamn right, it's evil. Fuck
Yeah.
you. Let's watch it again.
Yeah.
In this movie, like they had a very, very detailed ARG
What is
that I
ARG for dumb people like me?
it's an augmented reality game.
Ah.
So like it's like clues, you have to like decipher things that lead you to new things. Sometimes like you have to take an image
Yeah.
and you have to like put it into an image processor and like invert the colors and you'll get clues.
Ah.
So like it's shit that like for me I find very interesting, but I do not have
The time
the
for.
time or patience for
So
it.
they made a game to promo this movie.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so like it's all like you can go to the website, I think it's called like the Longleg Murder or something like that. Or the Birthday Murder or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a website, it looks like an old 90s website, which like it's cool 'cause, like the movies takes place in
Yeah.
the 90s. And it's all about like the different cases. Like you can read about like family members, you can read about the dates when things happened.
Oh,
So
interesting.
like and all of this was coming out like months before the movie was coming out.
Yeah.
So like people were able to like go in and like find some like little nuggets of information.
That's cool.
Um, and like when the after the movie released, and they released even more information on the website,
Yeah.
and like all of that basically turned this like little indie movie into like their biggest movie ever,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like it's engaging. I think it's one of those things where like you're always like, oh, this movie's so good. Why isn't it doing good? And you're like, well, because the fucking studio's not marketing it. And I
Mm.
feel like this is like, no, the studio is marketing.
Yeah.
Like even the first teaser trailers for this movie were like 30-second clips of like a picture like zooming in and just being very unsettling. It doesn't give you a goddamn clue as to what's going on,
Right.
but it's setting the mood, which I think
Which for this movie is all you kind of need.
absolutely,
You just need
yeah,
mood.
for sure. Um, so like as far as the movie goes, I think our main character is very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I think you
I
could
think our
very
main
easily,
antagonist is also very interesting.
oh, for sure. But like having your main character basically be someone like heavily on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like it's not as usual as like we might think it is. Like people joke like, oh, that person is probably on the spectrum, but
Yeah.
like like a lot of times like being something like that faith. No, this person probably is.
It made me want, and I think adding this would have thrown the movie out of balance. So obviously, I'm glad the movie didn't do it, but it made me want to learn more about Lee's background because obviously she's good at her job
Hmm.
because psychic, but like I would have just loved to see like how the fuck did she get from living in this broken ass house
Hmm.
to FBI? Like I would have liked to just see that happen.
Yeah.
And
And part of me agrees that I would like to see that happen, but part of me also feels like the movie stands on its own
oh
enough
yes,
that like
I guess
if you,
I'm more so just curious, not like I wish the movie did it. I'm
hmm
more so want to see that. I'd like to see that story.
yeah. The the other thing about this movie is like I feel like the pacing on it, while it's still like a slow paced movie, I feel like you're never like, all right, speed the shit along.
Correct.
I like the way it's like split into like the three sections. The first section is his letters. The second section is like
Majority of the
all your
movie.
things,
Yeah.
and then the third section is called Birthday Girls. And like in the beginning part, I like the introduction to Harker. Like it's very subtle, but like you can tell that she's kind of already like showing her like weird
Yeah.
like psychic abilities.
I mean, right away when she's like, "It's that house."
Not just that. No, no, no. Before that, where he's talking about like, oh, we're gonna go door knocking. We're going to assign you like new partners, and she immediately looks at the guy she's gonna be partnered with,
Ah, yes, yes,
and it's
yes.
like a very like subtle thing where you're like, oh, why is she looking at this guy?
Yeah,
Maybe she'll,
she knows.
well, because she
Yeah,
already kind of knows she has a like
she
an
she has.
inkling.
Yeah,
Um, and also like I think it sets up kind of the type of movie this is gonna be immediately when that dude gets shot in the
I
fucking
was gonna say,
face.
you know who else was psychic?
Tyler was
Me,
psychic
because jokingly,
because this man's gonna get shot in the face, and I'm like,
that's exactly what.
it's exactly what happened. And I mean, but like to start the movie like with that, you know,
Because that guy looks like he could have main straight cop energy.
yeah,
Like they could be the buddy cop duo of the film.
for
Yeah,
sure. But there is also something that I really like about her dynamic with Carter
yeah,
because he's just like this no nonsense,
by the books.
by the books,
Yeah.
chief.
Why do you think
Uh-huh.
the camera so often focuses on the picture of Bill Clinton above him, other than to just remind you what decade it is?
I don't know, but it's so fucking funny.
I think it is hilarious. It's like jarringly hilarious,
Yeah.
and I think it adds some levity in the room. To me, I took it as like a reminder, like it mirrors his like straight edge copness, because
Hmm.
like when we think of Bill Clinton, we do think of truly simpler times.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think this cop is trying to be the embodiment of like simpler, more straightforward times.
And I mean that is his character.
Um,
He like multiple times throughout the movie he's like, this is nothing, not necessarily not weird,
yeah.
but like this is just a very straightforward case of like this dude is killing people.
Yep.
And to his detriment, like that is his downfall at the end of
Yeah.
the movie, right?
Yeah.
Um, because it's not.
Right.
Which is also kind of funny then, because like they do bring in Harker or Lee,
Yeah.
who is not a normal person, right? She's got these
Yeah.
weird psychic abilities. Maybe she's, on the spectrum. So like she is your stereotypical definition of not
Not
normal,
normal.
right?
Yeah, Agent Carter does suffer from Cytokaiba syndrome.
Go on, please explain.
The disease where, because the whole time in Yu-Gi-Oh, he's like, "Oh, the Yu-Gi-Oh magic's not real."
Oh yeah,
And you're like, bitch, your soul was sent to the
to the
shadow,
shadow.
among other things.
Yeah. The way this movie is shot, I love the wide angles they use without using like a fisheye lens,
Mm,
which is very jarring. And I
mm,
think the first time you notice you're like, why does this movie look A so imposing,
yeah,
but it also doesn't like you can't quite pin it, and it's not until you realize oh, it's because like the edges are not distorting like you do with a wide angle.
right.
But it does kind of lead to some very like unnerving, like just scenes of like nothing necessarily happening,
Well, that's the thing.
but it's that atmosphere,
I think this film does a lot to make the movie feel scary without overly relying on the
jump
script.
scares.
Right? Not just jump scares, but like it's the weird mannerisms of the characters. It's the stark
Hmm.
contrast between Agent Carter and like Agent Harker, right?
Yeah,
It's the constant wide angles. It's the weird shapes that you see, in the background of things.
yeah.
Um,
So how many of those like shapes that you caught before I pointed one out to you?
None. But like once you see the Baphomet one, you're like, yeah.
They're all Baphomet.
Are they all
They're
Baphomet?
all
Maybe
Baphomet,
that's
and
the thing.
he's lurking in the background.
I think like for how on the nose this movie is, and I mean that in a good way, where it's like, no, it's literally the devil.
Yeah,
It's the goat. It's the big goat version of the
big
devil, right?
horns.
Right. And that's what you're dealing with here. And I think that makes it. I think that in a way makes it scarier because the movie is just like leaning into the evil. There's a scene towards the end where Nicolas Cage is being interrogated, and then Agent Harker's like, "Who's the man downstairs?" And I'm like, "I know you know."
Yeah, and I mean, but that again, that goes to kind of like
Uh,
show like just how no nonsense Carter is,
yeah,
right? Because like he's taking this very literal, like I'm working for someone else.
yeah,
Like he should be taking it like. hella super literal,
Yeah.
a fucking devil,
Yeah.
right? Um, this case I think is very interesting as well, like the way they set up like the serial killings, where it's
Yeah.
like it's always a family.
Right.
It's always they always have a daughter who who like whose
Has a
birthday's
birthday
on
on the
the
14th.
14th, which I know we talked about it a little bit briefly.
Yeah.
The fact that you're the cop and
Yeah.
your daughter's birthday's on the 14th, and
Yeah.
that is like the only thing that you've been able to
Triangulated
kind of
about, yeah.
triangulate,
Yeah.
and you're not like, hey, maybe let's figure this out.
Yeah.
My only like my only like justification for that at the end of the movie is that he is like so believing that it's all purely Longlegs doing,
Hmm.
and then when he
Yeah,
unsuits him,
he thinks he's
he
immune.
just thinks it's done.
Yeah.
So like that's my only excuse to be like, all right, I
Yeah.
forgive that.
Yeah.
That because I mean it is kind of a glaring issue.
And also he doesn't know, I guess by then he knows about the doll. And I guess he has an inkling that like maybe Longlegs is using the doll to do the mind control or whatever.
Hmm.
But like he really doesn't he is not privy to a lot of the details that we are privy to at that point when he lets like he doesn't know like the accomplice is a fucking nun. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Um I was gonna say something about this birthday thing. Oh, is there any significance to the number 14? Or is that just like the number that this movie decided to go with?
I don't know if it's necessarily like I don't know because I know they talk about like it's like 6 days away from like when the killings happen.
Hmm.
And I don't know if like the way she used the cipher if that just falls
That's
in
how it
that
falls.
positioning.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not very studious of the occult shit. I'm not a goth girl with crystals.
Yeah, I mean the only 14 like numerology I know is, I mean it's, if anything it's like a good number because it's two sevens and seven is like a number of completion.
Uh,
Um but that's the only like 14 thing I know. So I thought it was interesting that like, because usually your double movie will really lean into like sixes, which this movie does a little bit. But I like that it picked something that wasn't necessarily six related, and it just kind of shows like the mindlessness of evil because there's no like yes, there's like a logic and a pattern to this guy's work, but there's no he has no other motivation for it other than the fact that he is just like
Doing evil shit for
evil, right?
yeah. I think one thing that I kind of picked up is like he chooses specifically like white houses.
Yeah.
He mentions that um because like all the victims are like random, with the exception of obviously being a daughter born on the 14th.
Yeah.
Like all of the victims, like they're not all
They don't
white,
have like a
they're
certain
not all
job
black, they're not.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. One of the guys is like a farmer. The other
Yeah.
guy's is like a random family guy.
One of them's color is Hispanic.
One of them is
As,
yeah,
as
the race. Yeah,
no, the color, Javi.
did it say color?
The color
That's
is Hispanic.
hey man, the the 70s were a hell of a time.
That's my third favorite color. Black, green, Hispanic.
Hispanic. My color is Hispanic,
Yeah.
right? Um, the the dynamic between Harker and her mom, I think it's
Yeah.
like it's definitely one of those things like at the first viewing you're kind of like, oh, mom is just weird.
Right.
I think second rewatch and third like you're picking up on like her kind of like mannerisms. One thing that I noticed last time is when she's talking to Harker on the phone
Yeah.
multiple times during the conversation. And this is a very 90s kid thing. I
Hmm.
feel like kids born today would never catch up on this.
Mm.
Um, and older than us too.
Hmm.
You would catch up on this. It sounds like someone is picking up a second phone.
Mm.
And I don't know if you remember, like when you're on the phone with someone, and then like a second person picks up that
Yeah,
same
yeah,
phone, you
yeah,
hear it sounds like a click and then like a static in the background,
yeah. Yeah,
and you
interesting.
hear that a few times, where like someone is picking up and hanging up, picking up and hanging up,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, why? Well, because. fucking Nicolas Cage
Cage's
is chilling in the
the
basement.
basement. Yeah.
Um, so it's those like small details that like they're there.
Right.
They're there to give you like a satisfying rewatch.
Yeah. The mom is one I also, and maybe this is to the point of flaw. I wish actually I got more of the mom
Hmm.
earlier.
Yeah.
Because we get
Well,
a lot of her in like the latter half of the movie.
I think the
Yeah.
problem is that we get more of the mom in the beginning, and then you start to kind of go, why is the mom so heavily involved in the story?
Correct. But even upon the first phone call, I was like, something is not right about this mom.
Yeah, I mean that's for sure on
Yeah.
purpose. Like the way she's like,
Yeah. Like
they're
this
like,
mom is
oh Lee, and Lee's like, who the fuck else would it be, mom?
yeah, like this mom is more socially awkward than her daughter.
Which is saying something. And I mean that is also, I think, a factor. And she does appear a little weird
Hmm.
throughout most of the movie. Like even when they go into like some flashbacks,
A little weird.
no, no, for sure. But what I'm saying is like I'm curious as to how much that is a factor of like she is actually just weird on her own,
Yeah,
or it's like all the shit that she's been forced to do
that made her
that's
weird.
making her weirder.
Well, and that's the because when you get a flashback of her telling her the story
Hmm.
about how no one would ever come to visit them, no family or no, or no big bad wolf, right?
Yeah.
This is, prior to Nicolas Cage's visit, this was a vulnerable mother and child, right? I
Yes.
mean, there's no dad in the picture, so obviously, like, there's some sort of hardship going on there. So I think that's something that I'm also curious about. Like, God damn it, how many fucking X gets like two prequels within like within 900 days? I feel like this movie needs. I want a prequel for
You
this
want a
movie.
prequel for
Yeah, I do
this?
want a prequel. I do want a prequel.
I wouldn't hate it. I
Yeah,
feel like it's unnecessary as
sure.
far as like
I think Pearl and Maxine are unnecessary.
that's very fair.
Yeah,
That's very fair.
worse has been done.
Worse has been done. I how do I word this? I think there's something to me so appealing about not knowing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I feel like if they start explaining, then I feel like it loses some of that mysticism to me, especially when it comes to like occult shit.
Oh, continue, but then
So
yeah,
my example for this, and this is kind of related, is like going into like Silence of the Lambs,
yeah.
right? One of the early movies, can't remember if it's Hannibal
Hmm.
Rising.
Yeah.
It's the prequel to like the Hannibal Lecter movies,
Yep.
and it goes into like the psychology of Hannibal. Why is
Yeah.
Hannibal the way he is?
Yeah.
And you're watching the movie, and granted, it was made by the creator of the series,
Right.
so like whatever. But it just kind of makes you go like, yeah, maybe I wanted to know this,
Yeah.
but now that I know it,
It's less.
it's lesser.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me about
Make
over explaining this.
that's fair.
Because like it is interesting that like how the fuck does he get like what are those little balls in the head of the dolls,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like and for me it's very satisfying to be like, dude, it's fucking like black voodoo devil magic.
Right.
Like
What else do you
it is
need
what
to
it is,
know? Yeah.
right? So like that's my only concern. Would I like to revisit this world? Kind of,
Yeah.
but I would be more interested in maybe doing something with like Harker following like a new weird case.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Um, I find her character much more interesting than learning like
More about Nicolas
the
Cage.
yeah the
Yeah.
minute details of Longlegs himself.
Yeah, I think for me, it's easier for me to compartmentalize horror movies. Like, we just saw a preview for Smile 2. I feel
Hmm.
like if Smile 2 was shit, it would be very easy for my brain to be like, there's just Smile 1,
Yeah.
right? And I don't need anything else.
Hmm.
Whereas like with a something that's more of a series, I think that's harder. Like I can't go back and watch Game of Thrones extensively because like season 8 has like ruined that for me.
Hmm.
But like I could watch an installment of the I could see all the Children of the Corn if I wanted to, right? And I could still say that, like, as shitty as Children of the Corn 7 is, Children of the Corn 1 is still just as mediocre as it was
Yeah,
the
but
first time I saw it.
it's a little different though with that because, like, for example, like Smile 2, for example, we were just kind of talking about it.
Yeah.
It's a separate thing.
Yep.
I feel like, and I also agree. I'm not the type of person who like
I devoured those
if like a
fucking.
sequel is
Yeah.
like you said, like if a sequel is bad, it doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the first, right?
Right.
And if a sequel to a game is bad, I don't care. Like I still enjoy playing the other one,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing with movies for me, but I just feel like as far as like like I said, like the mysticism for me,
Hmm.
I feel like I just like
You like it as a mystery.
could there be a satisfying explanation to this outside of it's devil magic?
I guess I just want to know more about, less so about the magic, but more so about the character. Like, I love to see like how fucked up that mom was before Nicolas Cage came a knocking,
Hmm.
right? I'd love to see like weird shit with Harker, like
Hmm.
in between her FBI career, or her doing like other cases, right? Um, do I need to see that? No, but I think that's where this movie has succeeded for me is I have all these questions and curiosity about these characters,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, like the black, smoke coming out of the ball, like, I think once you see big old Baphomet also calling on the phone, you're like, all right, just fucking doctor. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Say no more.
Say no more. Um, that's kind of the funny thing. Like the more I thought about this movie, the more that I kind of found like the sense in it, I
Yeah.
guess, weird as that sounds.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I want this movie to come out so that I can watch a video and be like, look at this shit right here, and look at this shit right
Yeah.
here. This is one of those movies that I'm like, I'm sure when I find out of fucking conflicts
You're gonna watch
or
the video
YouTubers,
essays.
I'm gonna watch that video multiple times.
Yeah.
Even I mean, there was even a video on that ARG that I was telling you about. It was like 2.5 hours long, and these people be like, "Look at all the shit we found,"
Wow.
and I was like, "God
It's
damn!"
a lot of shit.
But I want to consume all that shit.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that I find the funniest is people confused about the fucking dolls.
Oh
And they're
yeah.
like, "Why is he making dolls? He fucking makes dolls.
That's the thing. That's the thing about
Eh,
evil has no logic. Evil is just like,
Why the fuck does Buffalo Bill give people lotion?
yeah,
Because he fucking does."
yeah. And I think that's what works about this brand of evil because it's not, you know, it doesn't have rhyme or reason. It
Mhm.
just does the awful shit that it does. And you can see that in his like, ugly, demented ass face that this is just,
Yeah, it's kind of funny to me that it almost looks like he's making himself look like a doll. Like he
yeah,
wants to make himself like he wants to preserve himself. It's
yeah,
kind of weird.
yeah.
I don't know if like that's actually like a read on it, but it's interesting like how peculiar he looks.
He is very peculiar. I do because I think the actual Buffalo Bill character did get criticism for like
Yeah,
furthering the trope of like queer coded
yeah.
psychos. um I think you could levy the same criticism at this movie, but yet I think there's something I find interesting. So I'll tell you what I was telling you I'll tell the millions of fans what I was telling you in the
Millions of
theater.
fans.
This past weekend, my wife and my brother-in-law and
My wife.
my wife, don't ask why, but we were looking, through the local sex offender registry to see who was nearby, and dude, like 100% of these faces just looked like they would be awful, awful criminals, right? And I'm sure that was, the jail and the stigma and a lot of that doing that to them. But like sometimes, the bad thing is just what the bad thing is sometimes just what you expect it would be, right? Um, and I kind of like when movies lean into that. Like sometimes you can spot evil a mile away, but like can't stop it.
Again,
Yeah,
the white privilege is real.
which is real.
It's very
We also saw the Joker movie
the trailer for Joker.
trailer, and
Yeah.
I remember this scene from the original one where it was weird because like the Arthur Fleck character was getting a weird amount of like sympathy from people, and people were like, "This movie shows how Thomas Wayne's kind of a dick."
White people get away with too much shit.
And then I saw the scene in Joker 1 where like Joker goes up to like the Wayne compound and he just like sticks his fingers through
Between
the
the kid's
fence.
mouth.
Yeah, into Bruce's mouth. And I was like, I don't care how much of a rich asshole like he is. If I was Thomas Wayne, I would beat the shit out of this weirdo.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
1000%.
I have no sympathy for that kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
So yeah.
this is how a Republican take everybody.
I don't even know if it's a Republican. I don't even know if it's a Republican take because like I mean, the movie was not trying to do this, but like he has similar skin, not complexion, but like his skin is of a leathery kind, similar
Yeah,
to
it's
certain
like
former presidents.
that. It's heavily Botox.
Yeah,
He looks very much like Matt Gates at the RNC.
but even okay, but even so, like even Trump, like just like look at this guy, look at his career. You're like, this is a bad person. And somehow people have been duped into like
Yeah, hey
thinking this
man,
bad person is like Jesus is chosen.
hey man.
So I don't know. Yeah.
So going back to the dolls thing,
Yeah.
it does lead to kind of like a point of like interpretation for the end of this movie.
Mm,
So they find this doll at the camera farm.
yeah.
They find that weird ball we were talking about.
Yeah.
It
Brain.
yeah, the brain, right? He says, um, and this is where we have that weird like coroner
Yeah.
who's like
Way too into his job.
way too into his job and way into the doll,
Yeah.
which is he's like this beautiful fucking doll. He's
Yeah.
like this creepy ass looking doll.
Yeah.
Um, he does mention that like the doll, so the weird brain thing like is affecting him. He says like I thought I heard my wife's name, which is weird.
I don't remember that part. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like I swear I heard my wife saying my name or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, which doesn't make sense because she's not here.
Yeah.
And so like that's like a bit of a bit of a hint. And also there's a reaction that Harker has immediately when they have that like an ultrasound um
On the
like
doll.
little that machine on the doll thing, and like she starts to have a reaction to it.
Yeah.
Like she's like disoriented. There's flash on the screen of like snakes.
Yep.
Um, and that's like your first clue that well
She has a
she's
connection.
got to have a connection to a doll or this doll.
Yep.
And then when we do go finally meet Carrie Ann,
Hmm.
she says, "Do you remember anything about a doll?" She says, "No, and neither do you."
Yeah.
So like that's telling her, "No, you also have a doll,
Right.
but you have no idea that
No
you have a
idea.
doll."
Yeah.
Which then at the end of the movie, when the little girl has the doll, I think it's the doll. So the doll is what's like we already know, like the doll is repressing their memories.
Hmm. Because the little
Um,
girl is not freaking out while any
no,
of this is happening.
she's catatonic,
Yeah. Just like Carrie
just
Ann.
like Carrie Ann
Yeah.
was originally. Which, by the way, backtrack a second. That scene with the manager,
Yeah.
with the very flamboyant
What a character.
manager, he's just like, yeah, she's just like catatonic every day, but then
Yesterday?
just yesterday,
She had a
she's
visitor?
got a sparkle in her eye and she is alive.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who came to visit? I don't know, look at the logs, and it says to be Harker. And he's like, UID? And he's
Yeah.
like, well, that would be a good idea. We take for granted security measures and just
It
how
was a pre
it
9/11
was a
world.
pre 9/11, pre
Yeah.
Patriot Act.
Yeah.
What a time.
That's what, and I know that Catch Me If You Can is greatly embellished, but like remembering that that took place in the pre 9/11 world
It's the only time that can
is what
possibly have
helps
explained.
me is what helps me believe that Catch Me If You Can could have happened.
Is the terminal set pre 9/11?
I'm not even talking about so much about the terminal, it's more of like the check fraud.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But like it, yeah.
Oh, the terminal, the
The
movie.
movie, The Terminal.
Oh, I'll do a quick
To just
Google.
let a man live in the terminal
It's gotta be pre 9/11.
of an airport
Yeah.
does not feel like it's possible in a post
He
9/11
waits for
world.
you at Sbarro.
Really? So
Came
that
out 2004.
yeah, but when does it
Yeah,
take place?
I have no idea.
It doesn't
It's got
matter.
to be pre 9/11.
It feels like it
Yeah.
happened. But anyway, um, the my reasoning for bringing up the dolls is
Hmm.
because at the end, Harker goes to visit Ruby after they find out that the mom is the
Hmm.
one committing all these crimes, and so she kills the dad, she
Yeah.
kills her mom, and then she goes to shoot at the doll, and like you hear like a bit of a click.
Yeah.
I don't think she's actually shooting, and she's A, out of ammo, or B, jam like the gun.
Mm.
Because like one thing that you learn when you have a gun is like there's like a little mini click that you hear when you like start to push on the
Hmm.
trigger
Hmm.
before you get that resistance, and it's like like a bit of a
Yeah.
safety-ish mechanism
To let you know that
to let
like
you know, like, all right, your hand is here and the trigger is about ready to
it's
go,
about to go.
right?
Yeah.
Then when you get that feeling of pressure is when you get
The final
the
shot.
the final shot, right? I don't know if it's her trying to protect Ruby
Yeah.
from like remembering what actually happened because it's the doll making her forget. Because it wasn't until Lee's doll was destroyed that she got all that flood of like memories back
Yeah.
of seeing her mom kidnapped, remembering the story of her mom telling her about like
Then
basically
right.
why she's doing it. I also thought that was a way for the mom to kind of like get that out
Hmm.
because she knows that Harker will not remember anything associated to like Longlegs.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
So I don't know. I,
I
I
didn't.
don't know if it's like her not wanting to destroy because now she's the one taking over like Longlegs' plan. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that could go multiple directions.
Hmm.
I didn't know that about guns. I thought it was.
There's
Eh,
like a little like,
yeah.
and I guess it depends on.
You kind of feel it with toy guns a little bit, like airsoft gun. You kind of feel that there's like a pop before the pop.
Yeah,
Um, but I didn't notice that that sound was missing in the.
because also one thing that I kind of noticed was like she's she's using a revolver in that scene,
Yeah,
but I believe in every other scene of the movie she's got a semi-automatic, like
semi-automatic
just
rifle.
single
Yeah,
barrel gun, right? No revolving cylinder.
yeah, I think so.
Um, so I was like, if she's out of ammo,
Right.
that barrel would be spinning, but you don't
Yeah,
see it spin. If it was jammed, I feel like that would make a louder sound because it's the cylinder trying to turn
right.
and not turning, and then you're just hitting the metal. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's weird. I'm. It's one of those like questions that like I don't think it needs necessarily like it's kind of like the Inception thing
Yeah,
where you're like you can kind
you
of
can be
interpret that
happy. You
as
can be happy with the top falling or not falling.
yeah,
I am very interested in the thematic idea of um, the mom taking on the evil shit so her daughter can grow up,
yeah.
right? If anything, I kind of wish that like this movie explored that even more than it already does.
Hmm.
Um, but there was something I found compelling about like mom becomes a martyr figure to give the daughter a future, but
Yeah, I mean there's a bit of that. There's a theme. The theme of growing up is there.
yeah,
Harper's mom babies her a bit.
yeah,
There's a lot of
she holds on to
she holds onto all her
too
shit,
much shit.
too much
Yeah,
teeth, baby
yeah,
teeth from
uh,
like ages 9 and up.
yeah,
There's that scene where she's like, "Are you saying your prayers? Make sure they're not overworking you at work.
yeah,
Are you?" I think she's like, "Are you eating?" or something like that. Um, and it's like all of these like you're trying to kind of keep your kid young, and then
yeah,
that reflects with Ruby when they're in the bedroom where she's like, "Hey, what's with this, weird tent? Did you ever go in there?" And she's like, "No, that's too baby for me, but my dad wants me to keep it. He doesn't want me to grow up too fast."
yeah,
So like, there's that bit of a through line, and I think it is like a symptom of the mom trying to keep her daughter both young but alive at the
right,
same time,
yeah.
right?
The Is there a clear answer as to did was Longlegs willing to quote unquote reveal himself because Harker was put on the case, or is there any indication that like he made events happen to get her on the case? Because the case is like she solves she finds the killer who shoots the guy in the face.
Mm.
And then my understanding is they're like, oh, and then she does like the psychic test.
Yeah.
And then they're like, ah, something's unnatural about this girl. Let's put her on the Zodiac killer case to see
Hmm.
if she can figure it out. Is that accurate or was there
So I think that there's definitely something to that kind of like path, I guess, to follow.
Yeah.
Like if you want to interpret this as like it's all part of like a set ritual,
Hmm.
right? Because you already have the concept of like weird demon magic, right?
Yeah.
So like you could say like, oh, a path of events is being laid out, and
Yep.
this is how like how it's unraveling, and
Right.
like it's like the hereditary thing, where
Yep.
like how much free will do these people actually have at the end of the day?
Yeah.
How much has been predetermined? So like there's a bit of that because like she does say like she did not want to originally be a cop,
Hmm.
right? She wanted to be an actress.
Yep.
So like you already have a late in the game change of career because she does not until she's 20
Yeah.
that she wants to be
The cop.
a cop because
Yeah.
he fucking tells her like when you turn 20 and you chose to become
Yeah.
a police officer,
We all
like
laugh.
we all share a laugh, but
Right.
well, not all of us, just me. She didn't,
Yeah.
right? So like it sounds like he wanted that to happen, and that could be an influence on the doll, right? Because like the doll makes her do whatever he wants,
Mm. Right.
right?
Right.
So
So these
there's
events really could have been set in motion
yeah,
long ago.
and I think it's also implied that he wanted that to happen the way it did in that interrogation scene
Yeah.
where they're showing they're all in like the room and they have the TV showing his like weird happy birthday song,
Yeah.
and he says we're gonna have a birthday party on her birthday,
Yeah.
which is the 14th.
Right.
He says you'll be there, and he looks over at the Asian lady cop.
Yeah.
He says, and you'll be
Hmm.
there, and he looks at Harker, and he's just saying you'll be there, and he looks at Agent Carter,
Yeah.
and like it's like when you like watch that on a second rewatch, it's so fucking creepy that
Mm.
he's looking exactly where they
Where
are
were there?
through the
Yeah. The
TV.
T. Right.
And so like he's setting these plans in motion. It's almost like this is fated to happen.
Yeah. And it was fated to
It,
happen
I
before
mean
the
that
movie
is
even
what happened.
started.
You know,
Yeah.
the day that it happened is the day that the lady got shot in the car,
Yep.
the day that the dad died, and Harker being in there.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know.
So I would take that evidence then, going back to your gun theory. I I would suspect that her not shooting the doll. If we agree she's making a conscientious choice not to shoot the doll,
Hmm.
I would then run with the interpretation that the Longlegs is taking over.
That
Because
she is now going to kind of carry on his mission.
yes, because if it seems that the devil has so much control over fate in this movie, I don't see how anything that would have happened would have stopped him so far.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
on a happier note, apparently the terminal. I knew it was based on a real person, but I didn't realize he was living in the fucking airport.
Yeah, it was a real person.
I knew that. But Wikipedia says he was in the fucking terminal from 1988 to 2006.
Holy shit!
I did not. It's to that point where I want to click on the footnote because I'm like, there's no fucking way it was that long. Because the movie came out in 2004.
But it's a pre 9/11 world when it started,
It
so
did,
it
but
carries
like,
over.
yeah,
That's true. He's grandfathered in.
he's to the terminal.
So just to wrap up, like I said, I love this movie. I'm glad that we got a chance to see it
Me too.
and discuss it because I've been like aching to talk to someone about
I
this
want to share
movie.
this gem
Um,
of the Lord.
for sure. I think it's so exciting to me that like almost every year people are surprised when like the literal horror movie that could
Yeah,
does
$15 million budget.
50 million bucks. It's at 81, which is
Good for this movie.
good for this movie. independent like little studio.
Hmm.
This movie beat Parasite in box office, which is fucking insane.
I'm fine with
Don't get me
that.
wrong, I don't love Parasite. I think it's a good movie,
Yeah,
but I feel like there were better movies that year than
I
Parasite.
think I enjoyed this more than Parasite.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I had a lot more fun in this movie than
Mhm.
Parasite.
Yeah.
I'm here for, you know what? If we can stop the generational trauma movies and go to like purely like tense and atmospheric movies,
Right.
I'm perfectly happy with
Although
it.
I would say this is a tense and atmospheric generational trauma movie. Not as much a generational trauma as Coco, but it's got you know how like a chocolate chip ice cream is not a chocolate ice cream, but it's
Mm,
it's a bit of a chocolate ice cream.
mm,
You'll take
I
it.
don't want to say I'll allow it, but I'll allow
You'll take
it.
it.
Well, on that note, we will be back very soon with
Yeah.
a new finale of
In
sorts.
in our installment of never being able to review an entire TV show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
We has got the beginning, middle, and end.
Beginning, middle, not even beginning and middle, not even middle.
Beginning, middle-ish.
Beginning and end.
Yes.
I'm sorry, 2/8 is not the middle, Fano.
Did
I
we
know you're not a math teacher, but holy shit,
did we only get to episode two?
2 episodes.
Okay, yeah. There we go.
All right, we'll be back soon. Hope you enjoy it. Share this.
I'm the
Watch,
math teacher, but you called 2/8. It's 1/4, bitch.
huh?
Simplify your fractions.
Same thing.
Simplify your
Same thing.
fractions.
Anyway, until next time, he has been Fano,
He has been Javier.
and this has been the Cine-Scoots podcast. Bye.
Bye.